It was the best of times, it was the worst of times. It was the age of wisdom, it was the age of foolishness. It was the epic of belief, it was the epic of incredulity. It was the season of light, it was the season of darkness. It was the spring of hope, it was the winter of despair. In short, Buffalo is full of contrast from its previous mediocrity. One team has reached heights unimaginable a few years ago. The other has gotten worse. Significantly so. In the star-crossed tales of the Bills and Sabres, it's hard to separate them. They're both controlled by the same owner, and cursed in the arts of failure and agony. Terry Pegula may still hold both teams in an iron grip, but despite this, they have taken drastically different steps in their moldings. I think it's wise if we start with the model citizen of the group in the Bills. They are in unfamiliar territory not seen in decades. Legitimacy. They have slowly developed into Super Bowl contenders with meticulous and intricate actions. This is due to the efforts of the new regime. In 2017, several members of Ron Rivera's staff were hired to oversee the repair of a chaotic era led by Rex Ryan. The main mastermind from Carolina? Sean McDermott. A coach who brought about a new vision for the team. One that would focus on new age tactics and analytical insights. A plan that could involve a slight step back, but could reap incredible rewards. For his right hand, another man from that Panthers team is GM and Brandon Beane. From the beginning, they set out to work. Over the past several years, there have been some missteps, but the changes have been very apparent. McDermott and Beane are successfully developing several key facets of a team. Structure, accountability, and a culture that emphasizes excellence. This is the kind of development every team wants. When a team is stable and winning, it offers several side effects. Players are much more relaxed and embrace the messages coaches are trying to get across. It shows a clear vision of what the team wants to do. And if all goes according to plan, it shows in both the win and stat columns. Player development is often the litmus test in how things are improving or not. How do I emphasize this? Let's talk a bit about Josh Allen. When he was drafted, he was seen as a massive risk. He had a rocket arm, but it was incredibly inaccurate. He would make suspect decisions throwing the ball. He overly relied on his feet to get him out of situations instead of trust his passing. It would take a great effort to reach his full potential, but it didn't seem that way at first. He would show flashes of brilliance, but then counter it by overthrowing his receivers by 20 yards. After a subpar performance against Houston in a postseason loss, there were still questions about his future, but the Bills didn't stray from the plan, and he rewarded them for it. With both Allen's willingness to take guidance and the Bills' careful development, the quarterback not only took steps forward in 2020, he blossomed. The once inaccurate Allen was throwing balls with pinpoint precision. He would use his feet as a supplementary weapon, not over-relying on them. He would develop an excellent rapport with his receiving core. And the Bills helped there, too. Buffalo supplemented their talent with an elite pickup in Stephon Diggs. It cost plenty, but the rewards have justified it. Not just with Diggs' year, but Josh Allen has emerged as one of the league's elite. A guy I called a glorified running back a year earlier put up borderline MVP numbers. This is a testament to the Bills. They not only eased him into play as a quarterback, but they slowly challenged him to evolve his game into what it is. They've helped him develop subtlety, and it's allowed him to reach his potential. In other organizations and past Bills teams, there's a chance he would have busted. But here, it was the perfect situation. And it's the shining prize of the new regime. It shows in the draft, in free agency, and in re-signing players. They don't act desperately, but tactically, filling holes when needed with options from within or free agents that fit the scheme. Those that will best fit the players around them and the coaches guiding them. To another Buffalo team, this should be heartening, but it's far from the truth. The Sabres have been an absolute mess in this regard since the Pegulas bought them. In this case, I have to point to 3 players at minimum. Casey Mittelstadt, Rasmus Ristolainen, and Rasmus Dahlin. All 3 are incredible talents that were drafted with elite upside. Dahlin was considered to be one of the best defensemen in a draft since Victor Hedman. Despite this, thanks to the lack of direction and instability of the Sabres, all 3 have stalled out in some fashion. Mittelstadt can't gain traction in the lineup. The only winning Ristolainen is doing is the Masters. If this were golf, he'd be Tiger Woods. Dahlin is at a nightmarish season, and also in contention to get a hypothetical green jacket as well. This is what happens when you have a mishmash of different directions, coaches, and personnel moves. You get the Sabres. They both try to do way too much to fix it, yet do the bare minimum with unqualified and underprepared individuals. No matter what they do, what they try, and how they approach, nearly every move has backfired significantly. Veterans, rookies, players on the upswing, declining players, big contracts, low-risk maneuvers, they all failed. But at least one was looking good at the start in Jeff Skinner. As a buy low acquisition from Carolina, Skinner was entering a contract year. He was a wildly inconsistent player, but one with skill, and a guy who could thrive with an elite center. Let's just say he had that in Buffalo. Locked on a wing with Jack Eichel, the former Hurricane had a career season, potting 40 goals and enticing many suitors in a free agent year. However, there was reason to be skeptical. Skinner is a highly streaky player who was merely a complement to a line. He would be grossly overpaid on the market, and there was a chance they wouldn't get the return they desired. But Buffalo and the Pegula specifically demanded he be back. In standard fare, Terry would twist the arms of management despite their concerns. I get that Skinner had a great year, but at $9 million per year for 8 years? What in the literal fuck? Elite money for a complimentary player? With this move, the Sabres showed themselves as desperate, and desperation always leads to disaster. If only it were just that bad for them. Jeff Skinner is not only disappointed, he's flat out vanished, as a man paid to score the first year of the deal only netted them 14 goals with first-line minutes. Now it's even worse. 2 goals scored on the year, $9 million lurking in the wastes, and it toils on the fourth line at best. Skinner has even been a healthy scratch on numerous occasions. To call it one of the worst deals in hockey is an understatement, and he can join Kyle Okposo in that regard. Thus leads to the major issue of the Sabres. Unlike the Bills, they lack competent and experienced hockey men to lead the way. In the beginning, it was Russ Brandon and Pat LaFontaine, both of whom had no experience as hockey executives. LaFontaine left after a few months, and Brandon stepped aside in 2018 after workplace harassment allegations came to light. Thus, the Sabres devolved from Russ Brandon to Terry Pegula's wife. Call me a sexist pig all you want, but what the fuck does Kim Pegula know about running a hockey franchise? Apparently it involves running it like a tyrant and creating a toxic culture. Instead of trusting to those that know what they're doing, the Pegulas surround themselves with friends or family, or worse, themselves. And it shows in the hockey product. Fortunately for the Bills, this instability and insular thinking has not affected them. The singular vision of Bean and McDermott has bore great fruits. After several years of teasing their ability, Buffalo emerged as one of the legitimate contenders of the AFC. A 13-3 record is merely evidence of the Herculean changes made to the organization over the past few years. Every move made with care. Every player developed with the team's best interest in mind. Every asset maximized. These have led to heights the Bills merely had in their dreams. Clinching the AFC East title and winning playoff games. Both done for the first time in 25 years. The Bills are back. The fanbase has been galvanized by this maelstrom of success. Yes, they may have been smacked across the board against Kansas City in the AFC Championship game, but they should not let it haunt them too much. It was a fantastic season for them, and the Bills should view this as a learning experience, to better themselves for next time. Their true prize is one not seen on the field. It's in building a culture of winning. This is one of the most desired things for any organization. Such a strong and viable atmosphere is what players and coaches are attracted to when looking for a place to stay. Players will come cheaper to join or re-sign. Excellent assistants will be eager to stay until a better opportunity arises. The rank and file of an organization craves structure. Just ask any employee of a given business. A bad team would not get Matt Milano to come back on a cheap deal like that if there weren't organizational intangibles. Those with strong leadership at the top will attract the best, and the Bills are reaping such rewards. As for the Sabres, they too are building an impeccable culture, one of losing. And unlike a positive one, it's endemic in every aspect of an organization. No matter what you do, who you hire, and even if you blow everything sky high, if you can't get rid of the stench of failure, none of the moves will matter. There are countless stories of players coming to Buffalo, rotting away only to immediately emerge as good players elsewhere. Robin Lehner. As a Sabre, his career was on the brink. Despite his efforts, the team was still terrible, and it affected him personally. He stated his time was clouded with an atmosphere of negativity as he was cast aside as a restricted free agent. Once free from the shackles of Buffalo, his career rehabilitated. With proper insulation and structure from the Islanders, Lehner not only became a fan favorite and champion of mental health, he won a share of the fucking William Jennings Trophy. Evander Kane. In Buffalo, his reputation was one of being a total cancer. Arrests for bar fights, questions about his dedication to the game, and being ineffective at ailing Buffalo's woes. cue a big trade to San Jose, and Kane becomes a key asset to their team as well. There hasn't been a peep of criticism about him from the Sharks brass. Some could say he's matured and become a leader on the ice. Off of it's still a bit of an issue, but it's unrelated to hockey itself. He's been a fine asset to San Jose. Ryan O'Reilly. The local boy admitted the Sabres ripped out his passion for the game. The losing culture had permeated him whole. As a $7.5 million bonus came due, the Pagulas didn't want to pay it. They forced Botterill to ship him off beforehand or else face their wrath. Being traded for a fractional cost was the best thing that could have happened to him. As a St. Louis Blue, he became a key contributor to their Stanley Cup run, would win the Conn Smythe Trophy that year, and eventually grew to earn the captaincy. These are not independent issues. This is the fault of the organization itself. And this culture of losing has let its fury be known to this very day. After a COVID outbreak struck the team, they fell into a tailspin. On traditional cue, Buffalo has lost 13 straight games this season. They've lost 17 of 19. They haven't won a game in March so far. In fact, the Sabres only boast one of the worst 5-on-5 scoring rates in the league's recent history. Taylor Hall was brought in on a one-year deal that paid him a good bit of money. His only value has been as a lottery trinket, scoring a whopping 2 goals on the year with his trade value plummeting. Jack Eichel is livid at the team and is rumored to want the hell out the first chance he gets. With a franchise-altering 2 goals and dealing with a potential long-term injury, his value has also bottomed out. The bottom 7 players in the NHL in terms of plus-minus are all Sabres. Team defense has constantly regressed despite all the moves made. Goaltending is either inconsistent or injured. New acquisitions have flamed out. Their third best scorer is Tobias Reeder with 5. Ralph Kruger has faced the wrath of the fan base and media for his baffling decisions, but this culture has been years in the making. He may be doing a poor job, but many coaches have been and would be here as well. Kevin Adams was thrust into the GM role after Jason Botterill blew up like every single move he made. He has no experience and seems to have no idea what to do. I don't blame him. Being tethered to awful Kalak Boso and Jeff Skinner contracts makes this an incredibly unattractive job. I won't say it's the nadir because every time we say that, it goes lower. Would you support a team that insults their alumni by having them wear Chinese knockoff jerseys? How the fuck do you misspell Andrechuk? He was one of the best players this team has ever produced! It reeks of both ignorance and ineptitude. And the Pagulas sit on top of a mountain of shit so high they can't even smell the fumes. Under their direction, the Sabres are becoming the Cleveland Browns of hockey. A team only known as a punchline, a means to an end for real contenders. The Factory of Sadness may have left Cleveland, but it's relocating to KeyBank Center. A fitting home for what will be a decade without a playoff berth. So you may be wondering how the Sabres have suffered this fate, but not the Bills. That part is easy to answer. It's because the Pagulas don't have their grubby little hands caressing over everything. They have allowed the football men to do their jobs without interference, either by contentment or lack of caring. And the Bills have been saved of this wrath. It's such a disparity that creates the duality of franchise you see in front of you today. 2 teams on completely different trajectories, but started at the same spot. I hate to say it, Buffalo, but your main comparison here is James Dolan. People tend to forget that Dolan also owns the New York Rangers. Despite his well-publicized antics with the Knicks, James takes a hands-off approach with the hockey team. He has allowed the hockey men to do their jobs. And while it hasn't led to any championships, it has spared them from many off-ice issues that Dolan has afflicted the Knicks with. Even for the Bills and their success, I still worry about them. Not because of what they're doing, but who they're owned by. The Pagulas will probably meddle in their affairs at the first sign of trouble. And even worse, their business assets have taken a bit of a hit. They can't just drill another well to generate funding anymore. They capped off their natural gas wells a few years ago. And there's a good chance they aren't going to be back to running for a while, if ever. I beg of them, do not meddle with the Bills. McDermott and Bean have worked too hard to have their vision come crashing down around them. One slip-up and they fall back to the hell that plagued them for almost 20 years. And as you can see from the Sabres, anger can quickly turn to apathy. And that is the worst place for a franchise to be in. It's the disparity that separates these teams from Buffalo. And if they're not careful, the Pagulas will become the most hated people in town. I think I know how to close this.
And it's mind-blowing. Like, I don't need a Jerry Jones type of owner. Like, I need an owner who's going to answer to the fans when they misspell names on jerseys and have Chinese knockoffs on alumni. Like, what is going on? Like, what are we doing? Have they ever sucked the passion out of you like they have me? I don't need a damn camera in front of Terry Pagula every single day, but address our concerns. Be there when you screw up. Answer for the mistakes. Be accountable. And just don't hold yourself accountable. Go hide in your house in Florida. Like, what is this? Get in front of the camera and at least make us feel that we matter. That we matter to you. Like, I'm sick of it, Bulldog. I'm sick of it.